It is the top of the hour. It is time. It is that time of the month where we have our Build Capable exclusive. Today's session I'm super excited about because we're going to talk about e-learning data. We're going to demystify the different publishing options that we have from our common e-learning authoring tools. We're going to talk about what some of those publishing options are, the types of data you should expect to get out of them, and we'll talk a little bit about what's coming up with XCL because there's a new release, which Rob is very excited about, and I am very excited about. I think you will be too. I am very pleased to introduce, and probably for many of you, just allow you to say hi to someone that you've probably seen in your work online, and that is Jeff Batt. Jeff is a long-term friend and colleague of mine who is just incredibly brilliant. I wanted to have him on today for this conversation, mainly because we talk about it on a pretty regular basis. Anytime we're together at conferences, we like to geek out a little bit on this topic. So, welcome, Jeff. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're working on right now? And I'm really interested in why do you care about working with data, working with, let's say, xAPI. Tell us a little bit about
Yep.
that.
Yeah. So my name is Jeff Batt. I am with the Learning Dojo. This is my company that I basically do a lot of training with. So I have courses on Udemy. I have courses on Pluralsight, do a YouTube channel. So I have a weekly tip and trick that I do on my YouTube channel. And so that's basically what I do. I love to teach. I love to talk about how to get the most out of technology and really push the limits of the technology. That's really my sweet spot, I think, is just being able to customize things. And I've been working, as you said, Sarah, I've been working with e-learning and data for a long time. And really what got me excited about xAPI when it first came out was the ability to personalize content. And I don't think we're quite even there yet. It's something that you can do, but I don't think a lot of people do. And it is something to be able to adapt. I think the more data that you have and the more data that you're tracking, the more you can adapt to future learning experiences. And I think I would love to get to that point because in school, I was the kid that kind of struggled. I didn't want to say anything. I wanted to be the person in the back and just do my thing. So I struggled with school. And so that's where, to me, having one on one personal guidance, I think, would be tremendously helpful, especially in the e learning world, to say, hey, you understand this, but you're struggling in this area. Let's adapt the course to this. And so it's that vision that always gets me like excited if we're tracking more other than just completion and quiz data, and that's the answer to the question, right? And we're tracking what they've done in that. Maybe we can serve up new responses and new experiences based on that.
And that's the vision, right? Is can we create more adaptive learning experiences? Everybody, I know AI is the thing right now, but you can't do a lot of these things without data. And
Yeah.
so we have to build some data literacy in our field. And I think there are a lot of folks that have been pushing for this for a long time. And there have been a lot of incredible opportunities to learn this over the years. One thing that you said, Jeff, really resonated with me, and that's having somebody show you one time, walk you through the thing that you need. And I think that's how I found it to be most helpful for me to learn xAPI. I just need somebody to show me once because it's not difficult, but you do
Yeah.
need somebody to walk you through it one time because we're so used to the traditional method of I'm just going to click publish to SCORM, hopefully 2004 these days, but I'm going to publish it to SCORM, load it into my LMS, and maybe I'll get some kind of reporting out of my LMS, hopefully. And I think that what happened 10 years ago, it's more than 10 years ago now, 12 years ago, back in 2013, when xAPI was formally released into the world as a new standard, it gave us the opportunity to track more things. So I wanted to ask you the same question, Rob. Why did you get into the xAPI space? Like, what is the thing with data for you?
The data was one thing, but also there was the freedom of being able to track outside of an LMS. There was the nerd factor, of course, that it's a new API standard. It's not reliant on so much platform. LRSs are small, they're open, they're essentially buildable without a significant amount of cost. You can make an ecosystem from an engineering perspective. You can stand up an engineering environment very quickly and for very little money. And then there's that flexibility of not everything is traditional training. Sometimes we want data on things, or we want statement style data on things that aren't training. There's practical use cases of people doing work that we want to know things about. There's machines that we want to know how they're interacting with people or with each other and things like that. The whole Internet of Things. There's a lot of things that we can do with that data to supplement it, to see the journey from the beginning of an idea to fully trained people and everything along the way, and then map and course through the data lake exactly how they got there and what success actually looks like,
Yeah.
and how we get to success through a path of touching various different digital assets.
Yeah.
So that over SCORM completion time spent, it's night and day. The gap is too wide to ever turn back.
Yeah, I think that was the case for me too. Is just being able to track something that wasn't an e-learning packaged piece of content. Anything
Yeah.
else, videos, PDFs, whatever else it is that you're trying to support folks with.
Yeah, I always think of it like we tend to think about e-learning as a one size fits all.
Yes.
So we create this course, we put it out there, and we assume that it fits the need for everybody, which what you were talking about, Sarah, is maybe it doesn't. Maybe there's a part and I don't quite understand, or there's that knowledge gap of maybe I'm new, so but also somebody who's been here forever. We're pushing the same content to the same people at the same time, basically. So
Mhm.
that adaptability of, okay, based on your history, based on what you've done, how much you've been with the company, if you're tracking all of that within xAPI, then you can adapt it and you can actually say, even within Storyline, if you're actually sending over xAPI statements and you're reading the xAPI statements from the learning record store, you can take them down different paths and have a large version, a short version, or a medium version kind of thing in the course.
Yeah. So I've gotten us ahead just to start off. So I've been talking about
Yeah.
xAPI, which is the newest standard for being able to package and track e-learning data, but also to Rob's point, everything else. Anything that you want to track, you can track using xAPI. We'll get into that in a little bit, but let's roll it back. Let's go back in time to 2001. What happened in 2001 as it relates to e-learning standards? What came out in 2001? Quiz question.
SCORM 1.2.
SCORM 1.2. And for those of you who might not have understood me the first time, 2001, the year 2001, that is when SCORM 1.2 came out.
24 years
And
ago. Yeah.
yes, 24 years ago. And that is a standard that a lot of folks are still using today.
Yeah.
And they have legacy content, but they're also still clicking that 1.2 button when they publish content. What about 2004? SCORM 2004. What's different about that?
That's a hard one. They came out in 2004.
So 2004, we had a new version of SCORM come out. And then after that, there were multiple editions of SCORM 2004 that came out. So you had second edition, then you had third edition, you had fourth edition. So when you're in your publishing tools, if you open up, I don't know, Articulate Rise, or you open up whatever your favorite authoring tool is, and you hit publish, there are going to be some options in a drop down when you publish something for LMS. So you're going to have these different options. Typically, what do people choose, would you say, Jeff? What in your experience, what have you seen?
Yeah. I think people tend to, and even it depends on the learning management system because some will just support SCORM 1.2, which is 24 years old. And so it's a very old data. And I think maybe the 2004 thing throws them off because they think that, oh, it's all the way back in 2004. But no, 1.2 is actually older, much older. And any version of software, you're going to get some updates with each iteration. So you're going to get new enhancements. You're going to get more data. Some of the new versions of SCORM allowed more suspension data, which is basically the ability to save data across courses or instances if you log in from different computers. And so each version updated and just slightly, each version just got a little bit better. So I think that throws people off the year because they think it's so old. but really you're not getting as much data and capability with 1.2 as you are with SCORM 2004, fourth edition, because the fourth edition came out in 2009. So it's out of all the SCORMs, it is the one with the most data and the most capability that you can get. And so I think that kind of throws people off a little bit as well.
Yeah. And their vendors and some of the authoring tool folks are giving them wrong information. I've had people straight out tell me, no, 1.2 is newer. And it's not. And so I think it's a really important point, Jeff, that you mentioned that first you have to look and see what learning platform are you using. So if you're in an LMS, you need to see what content types it accepts. If it only accepts 1.2, then I guess you're going to be stuck with that to a certain extent. Now, there are some caveats, and we could talk about those later. But then, if you have the option, so if you have the option in your learning platform to publish to xAPI, then perhaps you should just start publishing to xAPI. Why would you say that someone might choose to start publishing to xAPI, the newest standard, which came out in 2013?
Yeah.
Why might somebody choose to publish to xAPI instead of continuing to use SCORM?
Yeah. So the difference is with SCORM, you get started, completed, tracked, like it'll save where you're at. It'll save the quiz questions. So like answers to quiz questions. But that's pretty much it. That's basically all that you get out of the SCORM data. And so when you go to xAPI, just immediately publishing from inside a storyline, publishing from SCORM 2004 to xAPI, now I'm tracking every single page. When I go to a page and when I leave a page, it is tracking automatically without me having to do anything. It's tracking every single page. It's tracking the amount of time that I spent on the page as well. And that to me is always the most interesting thing. I think we've overlooked that a little bit is how much time are people actually spending on the pages that I create? Are they spending more time than you expected? Then maybe there's something that's getting the people are getting stuck on. We did a compliance training not too long ago, and there was certain pages that people were getting stuck on that we wouldn't have been able to tell unless people reported it to us without some xAPI data. So looking back at that data and how much time they actually spent. But to me, it's almost interesting is even the page viewed. Some people were going back to certain pages and I was like, okay, why are they going back to these pages? What content on that page are they going back to view? And that's the type of data that is very interesting to me to see, okay, it's not just one and done and publish out for everyone. I want to see how people are actually interacting with the course itself. And that's just one little click. Instead of SCORM 2004, publish it to xAPI, immediately you already have all this data.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's assuming that your platform allows for that and
Yeah.
that the platform that you're using has decent reporting.
Yeah. Because even though SCORM is a standard and xAPI is a standard, the way that it is implemented with your LMS is different because the data is there, but whether they extract that data and show it to you, that's a different question. Yeah.
And so those interfaces and how those platforms handle implementation could be all over the place. And some of that is left over from their being backward compatible. So a lot of these platforms, maybe they've been around for a while and they've been serving people data and reports in the same way. So then now there's a new standard. How do I adapt that in my own platform? So I understand how these things can happen. Now I'm friends with a bunch of vendors, so I also understand how things can happen. I wanted to pivot for a second to talk about these different standards. If we were to remove the platform completely, which is what we've done with XCL. When we built XCL, Jeff was one of the first people that I talked to because we
I think
had,
it's a year ago.
yes, this is when we were just before we launched beta. So Jeff got to get early access even before beta came out. And Jeff, what was your first reaction to that as a comparison to learning platforms?
I think finally, I'm like, this kind of solved the need. I got really excited about it. And I remember asking him, like, when can I get access to this? Because you were demoing, you're like, not yet, calm down. But that was the hard part because the idea with xAPI is you can track anything anywhere. But the hard part in Storyline or any other tool is, okay, we have to capture who the person is. And in order to capture who the person is, you either have to ask them inside the course, and then there's a little bit of JavaScript. I have a couple videos showing on my YouTube channel how to do that. So you have to push it to like the layer, the outside layer. So it was a lot of work to try to get people to be able to capture who the person is wherever the course is on AWS server, on their website, wherever basically. But where XCL fit the need and hit the sweet spot is doesn't matter where the content is. If you upload it to XCL, great. If you don't upload it to XCL and you put it somewhere else, great. It basically captures who the person is through that form, through the learning link. And then it makes it so simple that you don't have to create the extra variables. You don't have to do anything like that. You basically just grab the link, put it inside of XCL, boom, then you share that link out with other people. And now you can really take that link and put it anywhere, like on SharePoint or whatever. So you're really expanding the content from it doesn't matter where the content is, which I think was always the original vision of xAPI, was to open up, okay, any content from anywhere can be trackable kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember talking to Jeff about this. We were in a hallway at a conference, and I actually had to make Jeff sign an NDA because we were going through the patent process. And I was like, I trust you, but legally I'm being required to do this. And I remember us talking about it. And I loved talking to Jeff about it specifically because the things that XCL does, a lot of that you can do manually, and it takes on average, it could be hours, it could be weeks, right? Depending on what you're doing. And XCL took all that out and did it in 30 seconds. And so I
Yep.
think that's the thing that I was most excited to geek out with Jeff about is the time savings for us to be able to do really complicated data collection way easier. And if you were programming things or building things that you wanted to make sure had this rich data, were accessible, you didn't get that stripped out based on what learning platform you put it in. And then we could have
Yeah.
people access it everywhere. So I wanted to talk a little bit about custom data, right? So we talk about in XCL automating everything for people. So if you have legacy content, you can use it in XCL. So you have SCORM 1.2, 2004, you can load that into XCL, at least with this upcoming release, which we're going to talk about in a minute. You can load that up to XCL. We will convert all of the things that are happening to xAPI and make sure that data lives in your learning record store for you. If you have your own LRS already, you can point to it, but we do ship one with XCL. You get access to a Veracity instance of an LRS with XCL inside the system. But one of the things that can be challenging for folks is what if I want something more than what is standard? What if I want, like, if I'm programming an e-learning course, for example, and I want to do something extra? Tell me, what are some of the things that I might be able to do, Jeff, that might be interesting?
Yeah. Now, yeah. So inside of Storyline, you can add a trigger. And I say Storyline because that's the tool I use the most, but it can be done in other tools. It can be done in Domino. It can be done in Lectora, things like that. But you can add custom triggers or even a custom JavaScript trigger anywhere inside of any tool, basically. But inside of Storyline, you can add an xAPI trigger at any point, which means anything, because out of the box, it tracks when you visit a page, when you leave a page, visit a page, leave a page, which is a lot more data out of the box to begin with. But on top of that, now you can start tracking more. One of the examples that you and I talked about was just an agreement, like a standards of conduct type of an agreement. A person just clicking on the box to say, yes, I agree, easily just as soon as they click on that box, basically it sends over an xAPI statement. Then once it's inside of your learning record store, you can create a report of how many people have actually accepted it, which is the type of data that you couldn't get easily. You had to create a quiz question and you had to extract it as a quiz question inside of SCORM. But not only that, even videos, like a video inside of Storyline, I can trigger events. And that's the key when you start to add these custom statements is you look for different things that are happening inside of your course. And so video production, I do a lot of video production for my YouTube videos and stuff, and video production takes a lot of time. So to me is, okay, are we investing a lot of time in video if people aren't watching it? So what I
Mhm.
could do is inside of the course is trigger, okay, that they made it halfway. And then on the timeline inside a Storyline, I can do a timeline trigger as soon as they complete it to say that they actually finished it. And that is very eye-opening data of how many people are actually watching all the way till the end as well. Or even tab interactions, like how many people are clicking on all four tabs inside of the interaction. So it's just that you start to almost like a detective go through the course and, okay, I want to know if people are actually doing this. I want to know if they're doing that. I want to know how many people are going back to tab three. And
Mhm.
if you start placing these different custom events, which is fairly easy to do inside a storyline, then you can then pull that data out of XCL or your own learning record store, basically.
And it's so fast. And I love those examples because there are a couple of things that happen when you start using xAPI. One, it's like all of a sudden you know everything that's happening in real time inside of
Yeah.
whatever it is. So that level of insight, I've been in this field for 25 years. I have been an instructor in a classroom, onboarding, new hire training, systems training. And the thing that I never knew is, okay, these people aren't complete yet. Why not? And folks would say, oh, I did the thing. I don't know why it's not showing up. With xAPI, I would be able to see. Oh no, you only made it this far, or you only did these things. So there were all these things that all of a sudden I had access to. It also helped me improve my courses. Let's say that somebody's not clicking through your tabbed interaction. Maybe your instructions aren't clear, right? Maybe
Yeah.
you don't want to use a tabbed interaction for this type of content. One example that Sean on our team had given a long time ago was that they were creating all these videos for some modules. Nobody was watching the videos. They found out because they were using xAPI that nobody was watching the videos. And so they were like, hey, what's going on? Why aren't you watching them? And they were like, oh, the steps were plenty. We didn't need the videos. So they stopped making the videos
Yeah.
and saved a lot of money and time. So these are some of the instructional design changes we can make for ourselves too. I wanted to talk a little bit about with these different standards, what you get out of XCL. So, Jeff, could you give us a quick rundown on some of your testing? Because Jeff has access to the new release already and has been doing a little bit of testing. So, as you've been going through and testing, tell us what you found in 1.2 2004 in xAPI, specifically in XCL.
Yeah, I have a document that I created. So what I did is I created the sample course. And in the sample course, I published out to every version of SCORM 1.2, 2004, second edition, third edition, xAPI, and so forth. And then I started tracking all of the statements that would be sent over. So same course, same experience, basically. I clicked on every single button and everything. And so with something like SCORM 1.2, you get the basics like I talked about. You get attempted. When they started it, you get progressed, and then you get passed. If this one was set to passed or incomplete. Passed basically means that if you want to make sure that they actually have completed the quiz and they passed the quiz, then I would probably do a passed incomplete status. But on SCORM 1.2 2004, you can just do, if you're worried about just completing and not necessarily did they pass the quiz, then you can do completed and incomplete. So I did all of those tests, and across the board, SCORM 2004 started giving a little bit more data, a little bit more events. 1.2 just did passed or it just did completed. But
Mhm.
with 2004, it did passed and completed. So it sent over both. But if I just set it to completed, incomplete, it would just set completed here. So it's very similar across all the versions of 2004. And that's how it is with most of those versions. But with 2004 third edition and fourth edition, you actually allow more suspend data. You allow more text responses inside of your quiz questions. And so that's where some of the features of the later versions come into play is if students are reflecting on the questions, they get more ability to fill out the text response, basically. But then once you get all of a sudden, when I get into xAPI, boom, all of this started coming over. All the pages, all of the content. And this is just the high level overview. There's a lot more data inside of the JSON file, but I got every single page. I got like all the questions and the specific answers to the questions. All of that started coming in. And if you just take a look at that and, okay, let's compare SCORM data to xAPI data just out of the box, you get so much more data out of that.
Yeah, and that's the same exact file. So you created one course. All you did was publish it for
Yep.
1.2, 2004, each edition, and then xAPI and did a comparison.
Right.
Now, I want to mention something that you brushed over. Actually, two things. So, one thing is in your data, one of the things I noticed is the duration. and how much time you were spending in something. So, for example, even in the SCORM 1.2 file, in XCL, let's say you have a bunch of old legacy content, and you want to still use XCL and deploy that, you're still seeing how long they took to do that code of conduct. You're only in it about a minute. Should it have taken you longer than a minute, or did you just
Yep.
breeze through it and click it? So there are some things that I think this data can help inform us, no matter what publishing standard you use when you're using XCL, because we do give you a little bit more data even than the publishing standard by default, because we're able to convert that to xAPI and then collect that data straight into the LRS. The other thing that you brushed over that I want to mention is that you said something about there's more information in the JSON than there is in the viewer right now. Rob, can you tell us what we have to look forward to in our analytics? Because there are a lot of updates coming up in this new release that I'm super excited about. We're giving you a sneak peek today, and Rob's going to talk a little bit about what's coming up in the new release. This is currently in build. So this is about to roll out to everyone when that release comes out. So Rob, show us what you got.
Sure, yeah. So I'll show and tell. How's that?
Yes.
So if anyone's used the XCL statement viewer, the activity stream, you've probably been frustrated, but that is coming to an end. We're updating the activity stream with a new look and feel and much more human readable usability, less kind of coded language, more simplified layout. And along with this, we're making some changes. So the result will be changing quite significantly. Right now, we have that completed status, the success status, the score, the basics that come in the package with xAPI's result object. But we're going to be adding to that because with xAPI courses that are published in Storyline or any course that you wish, there's additional information about questions, for example, that are added to the object that we can now pull to the surface and rebuild the entire question, show what the learner answered, whether it was right or wrong, any feedback, kind of things like that, and very detailed things like specific fill in the blank entries that they made. And then you can start seeing those over time. You can start seeing a learner's history with a single question, which is a really interesting way of doing things. And let's just say not a thing that SCORM is really good at without a significant amount of data mining.
I wanted to just mention something briefly. All of this data is currently getting collected in the current version of XCL. So if you're pointing to your own LRS and you have analytics tools there, you can already do all this stuff. So what we're updating in XCL is our internal statement viewer if you choose to use the version of LRS that ships with XCL. So we wanted to give you some additional options that are less xAPI focused and more human readable. There'll be filters where you can filter by a person's name or a link name or a date range and things like that. So some of those query options exist now, but you have to know a little bit about xAPI to use them. And the new statement viewer will be able to filter those things much easier and see those results much faster. So this is a super sneak preview. This will be rolling out within the next couple of weeks to everyone. So we're really excited about that. I know we're at time and I have to let Jeff get back to go do some sessions today. So thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us and for everybody joining us here and on the LinkedIn Live. We will be back with you next month with some really exciting news that I can't tell you about yet. But as soon as it's available, it will be
You
on
always do that,
LinkedIn.
Sarah. You always do
No,
that.
I know. I want to tell people things, but we have to keep some things secret for reasons that I also can't tell you
I
yet.
know.
But it will be coming. Just watch the LinkedIn announcements from the Build Capable site. And as soon as that new topic is up, we'll let you know what it is. Thank you all so much for joining us today. If you have questions, you can always reach out to us, and we're here to help. We will see you all next time.